it splits the pressure from front to the rear, 70 versus 30. Okay? Pressure differential valve tells you if there's a hydraulic system leakage somewhere or a hydraulic system pressure difference. Okay? That's why you have to make sure you follow the bleeding sequence. If you don't follow the bleeding sequence that manufacturer give you, you will move that valve to one side. Even though you don't have a leak, the light will stay on. How do you fix that problem? Nope. Nope. Only a shade tree would do that. Okay? What you do is you go back and bleed the system according to the manufacturer's specifications. Okay? You do that, the valve will move back to the center, light will go off. Okay? All right. Let's move on, guys. Proportioning valve controls fluid flow to the rear wheel's split point. Okay? Basically, proportioning valve, there's a check valve here. There's a check valve here. Fluid coming in from the master cylinder, okay, to the rear brakes. Basically, what it does, it reduces the amount of fluid that goes. See, what it does, it restricts the flow to the rear, okay? So that's how it splits it, 70-30 or 40-60, depending on what the manufacturer decide, okay? Height sensing valve, proportioning valve. What is a height sensing proportioning valve? Okay, this is usually is there on big trucks, okay? Because when you load up the big truck with a lot of weight in the back, you need to have more pressure in the back, right? You need to increase the pressure in the back. That's what that valve does. It opens up more fluid to the rear wheels as well. So the more weight you have, the more even split you'll have. Instead of being 70-30, it will reduce it down to maybe 50-50. Make sense?
That's the spring that, that kind of pulls it with.
Exactly. You can see this. You can see this on your truck. You can see this on your truck. Usually, if you raise it up, there'll be a spring attached, and they'll be attached to the valve, and that valve will have brake lines going to it. One brake line going in, other brake line splitting out to the rear brakes.
Is it only like the 3500 series?
No, I've seen this on Mitsubishi trucks. I've seen this on Nissan trucks, little bitty trucks. It doesn't usually on trucks where the weight can in the back can vary. Okay, so that's basically what this is. Okay. Pressure differential valve. Here's the spool valve that I drew on the board. Okay. This is the pintle that we're talking about, and this pintle will have electrical connection in the back. If the valve moves either ways, left or right, it will push the pintle up and close the contacts, turn the light bulb on. Okay? Brake warning lights. Large red light in the instrument panel may be triggered by any of the four means. Number one could be parking brake on, turns the light on. Low fluid level, okay, yeah. In the reservoir, there's a level sensor, like a toilet flush float, okay? But this one has electrical contacts, okay? The fluid goes to a certain level, it turns the light on, okay? Sometimes, some customers will complain coming in, when I'm driving down the road straight, everything's fine. When I make a sharp turn or a right turn or a left turn, my brake light flashes on, and as I complete the turn, go back straight again, the light goes off. What do you think that's causing it? Low brake fluid. Low brake fluid is just about low, and as you make a left turn or a right turn, the fluid shifts, right, in the reservoir, and making that fluid go down further more, okay, and turning the light on, and then when you go back straight, the fluid comes back up and turns the light back on. So what do you do at that point? You say, I just top your brake fluid off, right? All you do is just open the cap up, put the brake fluid in, close the cap, it's fixed. That's what you do, right? For that problem? What's causing that brake fluid to go down?
There's a leak somewhere.
Okay, there could be a leak somewhere, or either the pads or the shoes have worn out, either the pads have worn out so much that the piston has come out so much. The more the piston comes out in the caliper, that space that it creates behind the piston has to be taken up by the fluid, right?
Yeah.
So the brake fluid, where's the brake fluid coming from? The reservoir. So the level's going to go down. That's a good indication. You would tell them, hey, you need a brake inspection, you may need brakes. Don't just top off the fluid. Okay, don't just top off the fluid. Okay, you may need brakes. If you do need brakes, hey, that's more money for you, and they're more safer than what they were. So keep that in mind.
If you do that, you're the last person to touch it. The brakes go out, the attorney can sue.
Was that? Yeah, exactly.
They make you liable.
Yeah, if you do a brake inspection, if they do come to you and you do a lousy brake inspection and they'll go out, the brakes go out, guess what? You checked off, everything was good, but their brakes went out. If they do a research on it, report on it, and find out it was because of you being lousy, they could probably sue you or your shop for it. But that's extreme case though. Got to be careful though. Okay. And also, light will come on electronic pad wear indicators. Okay. Some of the Volkswagen, most of the European cars have electronic pad wear indicator. Okay. If the brake pad gets so low, it'll make contact with the metal on the rotor. Rotor is what? Grounded, right? It's metal. Okay. Everything that's metal on the car is ground, negative side of the battery, and that wire coming and touching it is positive. So that turns the light bulb on the dash. Okay. It'll be on the high-end cars. Almost every Volkswagen has that, though. Yeah, BMW, Volkswagens, Mercedes, all of them have it. Okay? Okay. Recentering a pressure differential valve. Okay? Like I said, one way to recenter the pressure differential valve is go back and bleed the sequence, fix the problem first, and bleed the brakes in a sequence that the manufacturer suggests you, and that will bring the valve in the center and turn the light off. Okay? Okay, brake line and hose service inspection. Brake line should be inspected for damage and leakage once a year. It's very, very crucial. Okay? What do you look for? Rust, corrosion, impact damage, cracks, missing mounting clips. Remember, it's very important to have those brake hoses mounted on the brackets, and loose clips that hold the hose in there. Those are very important. If none of these are a problem, you have a good braking system. If there's anything wrong with that, you have a problem with that. Any questions so far, guys? Anybody have any questions? Javier, you have any questions? Usually do. No? Okay. All right, let's move on. Look for kinks, okay, in the brake lines, and bubbles or blisters on the brake hoses. Okay, if you have a blister on the brake hose, it's an automatic replacement. Okay, if you have anything, first couple of those pictures, okay, the inner liner, basically lining on the inside, breaks, and it acts as a check valve. Okay, that lining is pretty tough material. Once it breaks, it splints and stays up. But what happens is it acts like a check valve. It'll only let the fluid go and not return, or vice versa. Okay, when that happens, you have a locked up caliper situation. These are common on 90s Chevy Silverados. Very common problem on those. Okay, one of them, the first one I came across, was a 91 Chevy truck. The truck came in with blue rotors. What that means is, caliper's locking up, right? I couldn't even move the rotor. He was driving on it. It was getting red hot. And so I said, oh, you need a set of calipers, you need brake pads, new rotors, and everything. He said, okay, let's do it. I want to get it fixed. Put them on there. Guess what? I test drove it. My cane got hot. I'm like, darn, I've already replaced all this. Okay? So what I did, I hooked up some pressure switches. Okay? Pressure gauges, I mean. On the caliper where the bleeder valve goes, you can hook up some pressure gauges. We have some pressure gauges. You can pump the brakes. When you pump the brakes, when you let go on the brake pedal, the pressure should go down, right? One side didn't go down. You know what that told me? Brake hose was only letting the pressure to go towards the caliper piston, not let it come back because of that one of those situations. Okay?
Did you have to pay for the caliper pistons?
No, I didn't damage it the second time around, because remember, when you test drive it, you don't drive it too much. Just drive a little distance. I saw it. It was getting hot, okay? And the brakes were still grabbing, okay? So I said, you know what? Before I damage it, I better do more checking on it, okay? And I found out he needed brake hoses too. And we replaced the brake hoses, explained the situation to the customer. He needed the caliper, pads, and everything anyways, because once you get the caliper hot enough, what's in the caliper? The seal, right? The seal, when you get extremely hot, that seal wears out. It's made out of rubber. So it can melt too, okay? It can get out of shape, okay? Banjo bolt, okay? This is a banjo bolt. This bolt has a hole inside the stud part of the bolt, okay? So the fluid can go through the bolt and into the caliper. Usually the caliper, where the hoses hook up on the caliper, these kind of bolts that are used, okay? Usually these bolts are used with, this bolt is sandwiched with, actually the hose is sandwiched with 2 copper washers. Remember to put those copper washers on there, okay? Copper is soft metal and it seals better, okay? So the copper, that's what they're showing you right here. See these washers right here? These are copper washers, one on the top, one on the bottom. This is the brake hose that goes around this banjo bolt, okay? So I'll show you one on Monday. I have a couple of the hoses that I took off from some of the cars. I'll show you. Banjo bolt is very, very important. If you over tighten them, it's nothing but a hollow bolt. That's why you got to follow this torque specifications on this. If you over tighten them, you will break it. If you under tighten it, it'll leak. So it's very important to follow the torque specifications of this. Almost everything on brakes, you got to follow them. Okay. Brake hose replacement installation. Well, you can read up on that. Okay. Make sure you put the clip in, brake hose clip on the bracket. Tube bender. We have exactly the same ones in the tool room. I'll do a demo on that next week. Okay. Double flare. I'll do a demo on that too. No need to go over this. Okay. All this is about flaring. Testing proportioning valve pressures. If you have a pressure problem, if you have a car that nosedive on you every time you step on the brakes, sensitive braking, you can hook up some pressure gauges on the front and back. See how much pressure you're getting. Okay. You should have a pretty close to what the manufacturer calls for, the split of the pressure. Okay. So it's very important when you do that. All right, let's move on. Height sensing proportioning valve using, put some load in it, test it before the load and test it after the load. That will tell you if it's working or not. How do you test it? Again, pressure gauge. Okay, service hydraulic valve replacement. You can replace all these valves, okay? We talked about proportioning valve. We talked about metering valve. Those two can be in one unit or separate. When they're in one unit, what are they called? Combination valve. Okay? One valve, say for instance, if you have a combination valve on a car and one of the valves goes bad, proportioning or metering, what do? You replace both of them because they're in one unit. Okay? Make sense? All right. Let's move on, guys. I'm coming to an end over here. Electrical troubleshooting. Always verify the complaint before you do anything and follow the step-by-step procedure by the manufacturer to locate the problem. Brake warning lamp functions. Hydraulic pressure differential will cause that, and brake pedal too low.